In 1944, amid the fury of World War II, an American and a Japanese pilot, consumed by hatred and despair, watches their planes plummet onto a lost island in the vast and silent South Pacific. Wounded, exhausted, and trapped in a deadly duel, their hearts pound with fury, until a colossal shadow emerges from the jungle, a monstrous creature that halts time and awakens a primal terror within their souls. In 1973, former British Captain James Conrad, hardened by the shadows of his past in the Special Air Service, feels the weight of a new mission. Recruited by the enigmatic government agent Bill Randa, he leads an expedition to the mysterious Skull Island, a place shrouded in rumors and fear. Conrad's heart beats with caution, but the promise of uncovering the unknown drives him forward. By his side, the Sky Devils, a squadron of helicopter pilots led by Lieutenant Colonel Preston Packard, still scarred by Vietnam, carry the pride and trauma of war. Among them, war photographer Mason Weaver, armed with an indomitable spirit and her camera, suspects that beneath the facade of scientific exploration lurks a darker truth, a military operation threatening to unleash unimaginable horrors. Every step toward the island is another heartbeat closer to the abyss, where fear, hope, and the impossible intertwine. Upon setting foot on the enigmatic Skull Island, Packard's men, still feeling the adrenaline of war, deploy explosives designed by seismologist Houston Brooks. Each detonation echoes like a challenge to the island's silence, unraveling a chilling secret. The ground is hollow, an abyss plunging into unfathomable depths, as if the land itself harbors a hidden heartbeat. But the group's audacity is shattered when a primal roar shakes the sky. A titanic gorilla, standing 32 meters tall, emerges with an ancestral fury, tearing through helicopters in a whirlwind of fire and metal. Terror grips the survivors, now split into two groups, scattered across the island like leaves in a storm. Trapped in a place where time feels suspended, their only spark of hope lies in reaching the extraction point in the north, where a supply team awaits in 3 days. But the clock ticks mercilessly, and distrust festers. Packard, consumed by rage and desperate for answers, confronts Randa with a gaze as sharp as steel. Under pressure, the government agent yields, revealing a blood-chilling truth: he is part of Monarch, a secret organization chasing a purpose both daring and terrifying. They are not merely explorers, they seek proof of colossal creatures, monsters that once ruled the earth, to prepare for their possible return. In that instant, every man feels the weight of the unknown, a fear not only lurking in the jungle but stirring deep within their souls. Devastated yet bound by loyalty, Packard and his men, his unwavering shadow, Major Jack Chapman, by his side, push forward through the smoldering wreckage of their mission, searching for their lost comrades in Skull Island's relentless jungle. The air is thick with tension, every crack of a branch sending shivers down their spines. Suddenly, a nightmare unfolds. A colossal spider, its legs like spears, strikes with horrifying ferocity. One soldier falls, his scream swallowed by terror. The rest, their hearts hammering in their chests, fight in a desperate frenzy, severing the beast's legs as Packard, his eyes burning with fury, fires straight into its face, sealing its fate. Victory is bitter, and the jungle seems to mock their courage. Meanwhile, Conrad, Weaver, Brooks, Sanlin, Reg Slivko, and Victor Nieves, exhausted but vigilant, venture deeper into a world that defies reason. First, they encounter a giant buffalo, its peaceful gaze standing in stark contrast to the island's hostility, a fleeting reminder of a lost tranquility. Then, from the shadows, a silent and watchful indigenous tribe emerges, their eyes holding the weight of impossible sights. Here, they meet Hank Marlowe, the American pilot who crash-landed in 1944, now a man marked by decades of isolation, his soul hardened but overflowing with stories. With a trembling voice, Marlowe unveils the truth pulsing within the island. The colossal gorilla is Kong, a guardian revered as a god by the island's inhabitants. Kong is not merely a beast, he is the last of his kind, the protector against the skull-crawlers, reptilian creatures lurking beneath the earth, responsible for wiping out Kong's kin and leaving him orphaned and alone. Marlowe, his gaze clouded by the weight of memory, recounts how Kong, still growing, attacked the helicopters to defend his territory and prevent the explosions from awakening the skull-crawlers Alpha, a creature that brutally killed his parents long ago. Fortunately, the bombs only disturbed the younger beasts. But even juveniles are lethal. Kong, with a force seemingly rooted in the very essence of the island, intervenes when one devours a buffalo and another lurks in the shadows. With thunderous roars, he slays them both, his expression tinged with ancient sorrow. In that moment, the group realizes they stand at the heart of a world where Kong is not the enemy, but a solitary guardian struggling to maintain a fragile balance while the island whispers its secrets and dangers with every heartbeat. Hope flickering within them, the group shares with Marlowe their plan to escape by reaching the island's northern shore. The old pilot, his heart ignited by the thought of leaving behind decades of exile, leads them to the rusted wreckage of planes that crashed in 1944. Together, with weathered hands and spirits pushed to their limits, they transform the wreckage into a makeshift boat, a fragile promise of salvation. As they navigate the river, the water's silence is shattered by frenzied wings. A flock of psychovultures, winged reptilian creatures with ravenous eyes, descend like a nightmare. Their talons snatch Victor Nieves from the group, his final cry swallowed by the wind, leaving behind a shattered team. Yet amid the chaos, they manage to reunite with Packard's men, a meeting laced with relief and tension. Packard, obsessed with finding his right-hand man, Major Jack Chapman, refuses to concede defeat, unaware that fate has already sealed his companion's doom. Before his tragic end, Chapman experienced moments that would mark him forever. Alone in the jungle, he stood face to face with Kong, the island's titan. But instead of attacking, the gorilla merely observed him with unsettling calm, as if recognizing his insignificance. Chapman, heart-pounding, became witness to an epic struggle, Kong battling the giant freshwater octopus, its tentacles lashing through the air. With brutal strength, Kong overpowered it, tearing off and consuming several tentacles in an act that blended survival and dominance. But the island showed no mercy. Still trembling, Chapman encountered a spore mantis, a carnivorous stick insect whose presence sent chills down his spine. Before he could react, the creature fled, terrified of something far worse. From the shadows, a skullcrawlers emerged, devouring Chapman in an instant, erasing him from existence. Oblivious to Chapman's fate, the group presses forward down the river, weighed down by the island's looming presence, where every shadow seems to whisper of new horrors. Consumed by a hatred that burns within him, Packard becomes obsessed with hunting Kong, blind to Marlowe's desperate pleas, who warns in a broken voice that without the gorilla, the skullcrawlers will rise as an unstoppable plague. But Packard, his heart hardened by the loss of his men, refuses to yield. He acquires napalm and explosives, weaving a deadly trap for the island's guardian, while Conrad, guided by a more human instinct, leads the non-military group toward the supply point, clinging to the hope of escape. In the darkness of the night, Conrad and Weaver come face to face with Kong. His eyes, vast as oceans of pain and wisdom, reveal a truth that shakes them: Kong is not the enemy. Moved, they decide to protect him, their resolve burning like a flame in the void. Packard's trap snaps shut with cruel precision, and Kong falls, wounded, on the brink of death. But Conrad's group intervenes, stopping Packard in a desperate act to save the Titan. At that moment, the ground quakes with a blood-chilling roar. The Skullcrawler's Alpha, a nightmare colossus, awakens. Packard, lagging behind in his fury, attempts one final strike against Kong, but the gorilla, with a devastating motion, crushes him, silencing his vengeance forever. Injured and staggering, Kong faces the Skullcrawler's Alpha, but the beast overpowers him, chasing the survivors as they flee toward the shore, panic pounding in their chests. Captain Earl Cole, in a heartbreaking act of bravery, tries to sacrifice himself to stop the monster, but his effort vanishes like a whisper in the storm. Kong, driven by an indomitable spirit, returns to the fight. In a brutal confrontation, he wields an abandoned boat rotor as a weapon, tearing through the Skullcrawler's Alpha in a spectacle of strength and sacrifice. Amid the chaos, Weaver falls into a river, her life hanging by a thread, but Kong, with a tenderness that defies his size, rescues her. In a final treacherous attack, the Skullcrawler's Alpha coils its venomous tongue around Kong's arm, attempting to devour Weaver. With a roar that shakes the island's soul, Kong rips the beast's entrails from its mouth, saving Weaver and vanquishing the monster once and for all. With the battle over, the survivors, exhausted and transformed, leave the island, their hearts heavy with awe and loss. From a hilltop, Kong watches them in silence, a solitary figure against the horizon, an eternal guardian of a world they barely comprehend. In the credits, Marlowe, after decades of absence, returns home. Tears of joy and sorrow streak his face as he embraces his wife and meets his son for the first time, a moment that heals the wounds of time. In a final scene, Conrad and Weaver, still haunted by the island, are interrogated by Monarch. Brooks and Lynn, their expressions grave, reveal a chilling truth: Kong is not the only Titan. They show archival footage of cave paintings depicting Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra, along with an image of an epic battle between Godzilla and King Ghidorah. The screen fades to black, but a deep and ancient roar, Godzilla's, echoes in the darkness, promising that the world will never be the same.